On a cold January evening 1965, Queen Street Station, Cardiff, lay the body of a tiny little old man, motionless, set upon by a group of thugs. Yeah, these thugs, I hope they're happy with themselves. Who did they set upon? Let's go backwards to come forwards. The poor little old man they set upon in his 70s on that cold January night 1965 in Cardiff was William James Wilde, better known as Jimmy Wilde, the mighty atom, or the ghost with a hammer in his hand, Tyler's Town Terror. Yeah, so born to the son of a coal miner. In fact, they only just spoke Welsh initially in their family. His skills down the coal mines himself could get into tiny little holes and quakers where others couldn't. And yeah, pale white, milk white, hence the name, ghost with a hammer in his hand. Started a boxing booth fighting at the age of 16, and he never ever once weighed over 7 stone. He was very often more like 6.5 stone, and he could knock out, hard to believe, but trust me, it's fact. Yes, he could knock out men of 200 pounds, which would have been in the heavyweight division then. Very, very hard to believe, but it's a fact. This 6.5 ghost with a hammer in his hand. One reporter actually said he goes around the ring, yeah, pale white like a ghost, but when he hits, he has an hammer in his hand with devastating power. Now, to take you back to his boxing record, he's still to this very day as the longest unbeaten professional boxing record ever. He went up to 103 fights unbeaten, 103. We talk about Julio Cesar Chavez and Joe Calzaghe and Floyd Mayweather. Well, Floyd, you've got another, you're halfway there, mate. Yeah, you've got to do another 50 and a bit more if you want to do this man's record. He actually in London had 2 professional fights on one night, winning them both by knockout. So he's only got 150 fights documented on BoxRec, yeah, of which he wins 98 by knockout. It's believed he had more like 800 fights, not professionally, with his booth and professional, but it is widely believed that it's much more than 150 documented. But we're going back historically, and we do have lots on this little fella. He was the first bantamweight champion of the world, and he fought often as a bantamweight, featherweight, took on feathers and lightweights respectively, yeah. Flyweights, he done them all, knocked them out. Very, very hard-hitting man. Can you imagine an heavyweight knocking out sort of 100 from 150 opponents, yeah? Bantamweights, never heard of. And giving stone and a half, 2 stone, right, in weight. So the first champion of the world, by historians and enthusiasts and journalists, still to this very day regarded as the greatest bantamweight ever. No doubt about it. Yes, a great career. Had a first defeat against a Tansy Lee at a terrible bout of flu, and he went against his advisors, Ted Lewis and his manager and crew. Went against them at his first, but not knocked out in the 17th round. Got himself well, dusted himself down some 6 months later, went another 10 fights unbeaten, and knocked out in round 11 the guy that done him with the flu. Yeah, so I think it was quite evident that he had the flu. Continued on fighting. Bad decision against Ted Sharkey in America, knock him out, get a draw rule. It was widely reported that he should have had that one, and he just continued onwards, upwards. He was the first bantamweight champion, British, European. He just done absolutely everything in the fight game. Eventually, miles on the clock had taken his toll in age, you know. Eventually losing to Pancho Villa, the first ever, a guy actually looks like Manny Pacquiao, the first ever Philippine champion of the world. He did get knocked out, eventually, bless him, out cold. But that was his career. He was contemplating coming out of retirement like many do, and they didn't. And he had many jobs, successful jobs. I think he went as a boxing referee for a while. He certainly was a writer for the boxing, I think maybe the Sporting Life, actually, I think it was a columnist for them for a couple of decades. And he retired in, semi-retired under a little sweet shop, newsagent, whatever you want to call it, in Barry Island, South Wales. Had a stint living in London, Cricklewood. Sadly got burgled there. Every single almost piece of boxing memorabilia and stuff, trophies, etc., was stolen. So that was a sad loss for him. And shortly after, the bad car crash, which gave him some bad injuries, but he got up there and out there. But at this stage, a poor little man made a journey from Bury, South Wales, up the road to Cardiff, not long away, and was attending some business 73 now, 73 years of age, failing. And bear in mind, he's at 5'2", barely in his heyday. So imagine him swivelling down a little bit, all the road work compressing on his spine. He's now an aging man. Poor little sod, probably wouldn't have stood probably less than 5 foot, yeah. And waiting for his train, minding his own business. 4 thugs were set upon him. It's hard to know that it's reported that was maybe a potential mugging. Who knows, this little warrior was maybe wired up, DNA not to back down. You know, maybe taking a mickey out of him. Who knows what happened? We don't know, but what we do know, one burly man was found guilty of his assault, and there was believed to be another 3 in tow. But they got not arrested because they said they were witnesses of the attacks and they took no part. And a burly 40-year-old man, a bit of a dog. I like to see the best in people. Timothy Dowell with a criminal record, in and out of Borstal, for violence, and meant to be part-time worker, part-time crook in the building, going quite a big, strong 40-year-old. Hit this man, along with others, full force, leaving this great legendary fighter laying motionless, out cold, bless him, on that cold 1965 evening. Didn't result to his death right there, but he never recovered from his injuries. He went from there to an hospital called Whitechurch in Wales, and he remained in an hospital bed for the remainder of his life. Another 3 years, sadly, in an hospital bed. Never really recovered from what he did. And this horrible Timothy Dowell, the bloke found guilty of it, 3 years probation. Yeah, let's give the justice system, even in them days, 1965, a man that weighed 6.5, 7 stone, wringing wet through, in his prime. He's now aged 73. This great warrior. Yeah, what a tragic, terrible end to the poor little man. But let's remember him. Come on, guys, all you boxing enthusiasts out there. I love the name, the Ghost, with a hammer in his hand that the reporter gave him. He's got the other nicknames. He's running around the ring, you can barely see him. He's like a ghost, a wallop. He could do the business, hit with such power. Let's try and remember the good that he had done for our sport. Yeah, let's try and remember the legacy he's left behind, the great little warrior. And let's, those thugs and terrible people out there that had put the end to his life, let's give them the other side of the applaudits. Hope you're happy, any of you thugs out there, cowards doing such acts to innocent people. Yeah, was he an innocent man? What would he have done to you guys if he was 30? Yeah, ask yourself that. Hope you're happy. You would have been the one flat out on the deck, motionless. But to take a liberty with a gentleman where you should have been walking up to him, asking for his autograph. Yeah, and a photograph. You probably wouldn't have had a camera in those days, I understand. But you should be making a fuss, seeing that gentleman on the train with his bag, making sure he got home safely, shouldn't you? You dogs. Anyway, you're the dogs. This man's a raw warrior, a great champion. It saddens me to tell the story, but I'm also very proud and privileged to be part of British when we have such great warriors like Jimmy Wilde, the goes with a hammer in his hand. And I do hope to visit his place of birth sometime. I'm going to make a little documentary on that, because I've been to the town where he lived, Barry Island, and he owned his little confectionery stroke sweet shop, paper shop there. So I'm going to do a bit more on him, but I brought it to you. But without doubt, Britain's greatest ever fighter, Joe Calzaghe, great. So many of you greats out there, Chris Eubank. Yeah, we can keep going on and on and on. I've forgotten waffling. I'm not going to waffle on, but this was the man. All you great British fighters out there, this was the man, Jimmy Wilde. I hope you've enjoyed this little documentary, testament to Jimmy. Go to a hammer in his hand. Mate, respect here, love to you always, real warrior.
When I was 6 stone 10, I won the long tail belt right out. I remember I went to Sheffield one day to fight 3 opponents weighing about 8, 6, 9 stone. Well, I was successful in knocking the 3 out in 7 rounds. I then wired to my wife stating I'd be home the following morning. Well, I didn't arrive home until 4 or 5 days later. So I thought I'd have to do some straightening, because you know what it is with these women, they want you back all the time. So I sent her a nice present along, but she didn't want any present. She threw it in the fire and sent a wire, come home at once. So I went back the following 2 days. I went up to Charlestown. I threw my hat in to see if I was welcome or not. But believe me, when I went in, that was my hardest fight.